The infant girl, Azaria Chamberlain, vanished. Some said she was taken by a dingo. Some said she wasn't.
For decades, the disappearance of a 9-week-old baby girl dominated the headlines.
From all over Australia, journalists trooped up to Alice Springs.
One of Australia's most iconic sites, suddenly the scene of what was thought to be a horrific crime. Police spent years searching for the answer to the question, what happened to Azaria Chamberlain?
There was no biology and none of the analytical aspects which people accept as, know about the DNA aspects that they do today. So that's a very different landscape and to how it's developed now.
In 1982, a jury found Lindy Chamberlain guilty of her daughter's murder, but when Azaria's clothes were found near Uluru in 1986, the conviction was quashed. The mistakes that put Chamberlain and her husband behind bars forced Territory Police to improve their forensic capabilities.
We didn't have a full-scale integrated forensic science service in the Northern Territory. We had fingerprint expertise and we had some firearms examination or ballistics expertise. That was it.
Despite its small and sparse population, Central Australia has been the scene of many of the Northern Territory's major investigations. Just 3 years after Azaria Chamberlain disappeared, Douglas Crabb committed one of the NT's worst mass murders, driving his truck into the inland motel and killing 5 people.
During the incident, a semi-trailer crashed through a bar wall, pinning between 15 and 20 people beneath it.
Now aged in his 70s, Crabb remains behind bars in Western Australia. In the early 2000s, it was a remote part of the Northern Territory, again the centre of the world's attention.
Peter Falconio was shot dead. Joanne Lees managed to escape, hiding for hours in the desert.
Inexperienced detectives delays in the critical first hours and at one point up to 600 persons of interest. The detective who later took over the case says the NT police force wasn't equipped for the overwhelming scale of the investigation.
When something like this occurs, you have to have your response over the first 24 hours is so critical. In the Falconio case, it wasn't well done at all, and it was many mistakes were made in those first 24 hours.
But despite the setbacks, Bradley John Murdoch was convicted of his murder and jailed for life. Nearly 20 years on, Peter Falconio's body is still missing and there's little hope of it ever being found.
Bradley Murdoch won't, he won't ever tell. He will take it with him.
In 2014, police did find the body of missing Darwin woman Carly Sinclair after a long investigation, police turning to undercover tactics to arrest her partner.
He had given what I'd said was probably a very believable version of events, but there was just certain things that just didn't ring true to investigators, and there were certain bits that we were still concerned about. Danny
Deacon eventually found guilty of murdering the 35-year-old and burying her in Darwin's rural area in front of their son. He remains behind bars, serving a life sentence. But not all cases have been solved. The 2017 disappearance of Paddy Moriarty from the tiny town of Larrimah remains an enduring mystery.
I think he's been done in. I really do.
And some cases remain blights on the force's record, with the coroner criticising several investigations, including the death of an 8-year-old boy in the remote town of Borroloola, found in a creek with rocks in his pockets.
8-year-old Kay Raggett was found dead in a muddy waterhole near Borroloola almost 7 years ago. His family remember him as a happy boy.
Police had ruled the boy's death an accidental drowning. Evidence was destroyed before it was tested. The coroner later said crimes may have been committed.
Just like that. How do they justify that? That's taking away closure for us, in trying to, capture this person who done this, terrible thing to our boy.
A public apology was issued to the little boy's family, and while changes were implemented by police, the coroner found similar mistakes were made 10 years later when Sasha Green died in Tennant Creek. And one of the most dramatic cases NT police have ever had to deal with came last year when 4 people were killed during an alleged shooting in Darwin CBD.
We have in excess of around 100 police who are involved at both those crime scenes.
Benjamin Glenn Hoffman will face trial next year, just one of many high-profile cases Northern Territory Police have investigated in the last 150 years. Melissa McKay, ABC News.